I have a surprise for you.
Why?
I need to ask you a question. Be curious, drifters.
Amelia's duel hits the front. Emma Coe is coming right away for Damien Oliver.
Bella Nipotina, and boy, doesn't she deserve this.
The Giga Kick's got a strong kick.
Golden Mile, soar out the mile. I'm thunderstruck over the top. Mr. Brightside has won the mile.
And Militarized blows them away in the Champagne Stakes. And she's a class act, pulling right away prowess. And Zoo Gotcha won it by 2.5.
Zaki, joined by Animo, who looks destiny in the face.
We couldn't end any other way, could we, with the new opener?
Tell you what, Matt Hill, Animo, who looks Destiny in the face. I still get tingles when I hear that.
Yeah, he did his job, didn't he?
He certainly did.
Yeah. Season 7, mate.
Wow.
Season 7 of On the Drift.
It's been a long time.
Man, crazy stuff. So
it feels like it's been a very long time though, since
Yeah.
Since we finished up post Winter Carnival. There's been a lot happen in between now and then, but also not that much.
Oh, I would object to that. I'll be honest, drifters, I haven't really done too much in-depth research into horse racing of late because I've been busy with other things. And, you know, you've been outside of the country for the majority of it as well. So how was your US trip?
Yeah, it's bloody brilliant. Geez, it's a full-on place, the US. Like it is. There's such a disparity between like the really wealthy and the really poor, and it's such an obvious gap, and it can change like that. Like if you're walking through a neighborhood, you can be walking through a really nice street, really nice area, and then if you go into the next suburb, it's like, gee, hold my hand really tight because this could be our last few minutes on Earth. Not that I'm scared of anyone, obviously. Look at me. But so yeah, it's a full on place to go, but I had an absolute blast. Highlights for me is the food. Like I'm a big savory guy. I love a burger. I love a pizza. I love Mexican food, all that sort of stuff. So obviously the US has that in a smorgasbord. And I figured out, mate, and correct me if I'm wrong, please. Any good meal or the combination of the following makes a good meal. Cheese.
Yeah.
Some tomato-based sauce.
Of course.
Some sort of meat. And then some sort of bready or carb-heavy type thing.
You just described my Subway order.
Exactly.
Like that's like 50% of my Subway order, right?
Exactly. That's also essentially what a burger is. It's
Yeah.
also essentially what a pizza is. A taco, a burrito, nachos.
Spaghetti bolognese.
Yes. Spaghetti bolognese. And the Americans just fucking get it, mate.
They get it?
Other highlights, baseball games was sick. Boston, Fenway Park on a Friday night, and New York City, man. I couldn't see any horse racing in New York, but apart from that, it's a pretty good place.
Concrete jungle where dreams are made of.
Yeah, 100%.
Alicia was onto something.
Yeah, she really was. And I tell you what, if I heard that song once in New York, I heard it 1,000 times.
Oh, really?
It's so funny. Like, you just go... So, in the middle of Central Park, I can't remember what the actual water fountain's called, but it's like one of the sort of touristy spots where you take a bunch of photos and all that sort of shit. And there's a guy just, trying his best to sell some bullshit touristy stuff to tourists. And literally was, as Gina and I were walking up to this massive sort of water fountain, it's like, in New York. I'm like, oh yeah, typical. And then we were sort of hanging around there for 5 minutes, and then it was just like, in New York. I was like, is this on repeat, G? G's like, yeah, it's on repeat. Like, this guy, would have to be borderline insane to listen to that song every day of the week.
Yeah.
So
leaning into the cliche.
Mate, they lean into it. They lean into it. You know?
Yeah.
You just got to lean into that cliche. Got to make the most of it because we're American. What about you, mate? There was some changes for you when I was overseas.
The day you jet off.
Yeah.
Just wheeling and dealing and taking deals. So basically, Prue and I started up a podcast production company, right? And you might ask, why would I be doing that?
Why would you be doing that?
All the gear, no idea. But I would I would say that we have, a top 5 horse racing podcast in Australia right now. Basically the opportunity came up where we had a couple of interested parties who were looking to be a bit more independent and start up a podcast. And we had all the gear just sitting here. Well, we obviously upgraded a fair bit of it. But yeah, we've kicked that off, and honestly, mate, it's one of the best things I reckon we've done. And I'm really into the content that we're creating as well. So if you haven't heard it, it's called The Medicine by Brian Girdler and Ben Teo. You heard. Couple of Origin stars.
Yeah. Not as famous as the two of us.
No. Nah, I wouldn't have thought so. But
tell you what, he's still got it.
Gerds, mate.
Gerds has got it, mate.
Yeah, mate.
The Silver Fox.
Yeah.
Looking like Tom Cruise, mate.
Mate, he's Australia's George Clooney.
Yeah, Mission Impossible. I'll tell you what. Mission Impossible to look that good at that age.
But the content that they're producing, mate, and I'm just obviously producing it and doing all the social clips and, cutting up the audio and all that sort of stuff. But the content that they're getting out, they're being super vulnerable. They're being really genuine, and they're speaking their truth. And they're really, they're speaking to, like, obviously rugby league, but also holistic health, which they're both really passionate about. So, I've learnt a lot, and we've only 5 episodes in. So hopefully, we have bigger plans for it already. But it's a lot of fun, mate. It just means that my weekends have been cut in half, basically.
Effectively non-existent.
Yeah, but in the best possible way. So, and you might have also seen, Drifters, if you're an NRL fantasy fan, All NRL Fantasy have been using the space as well. So, we're slowly grinding away with different podcasts. So if you're in Brisbane and you're interested, you have our DMs are wide open. But yeah, mate, other than that, played a couple of rounds of golf and not much else, mate. Yeah.
Just pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
On the grind.
Yeah. So I'm very, very keen for the spring carnival though. I think you said during the autumn, during season 6, that these 2-year-olds are better than the 3-year-olds at the time. Now, I'm looking at these 3-year-old races. They've come up strong already.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see how they unpack.
Yeah, 100%. And something else I was thinking about, and I think it's pretty prevalent in the form this weekend at least, is the transition from 3 to 4 is such a hard one.
Yes.
And I'd never really probably pay it the respect it's due at the start of each spring carnival. And I think it's particularly hard on your middle distance weight for age horses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking of horses that transition into the broader ranks. And we'll talk about that more probably in some of the later races. But it's such a big jump, like racing against your own age and then going into open company. And a lot of horses get found out. I think particularly the 4-year-old mares do.
Yep.
And it takes them, I think, a good year to actually come up to speed once they're a 5-year-old and they've filled out a bit and they're used to racing against the older boys and the older girls. But I can't wait. And you're right. I think this is a good 3-year-old crop.
I agree. And I think you can kind of see that in the Winx Stakes, right? There's some of the
Chris Waller Stakes.
some 4-year-olds in there that, are level weights with the big boys now, big boys and big girls. And you're like, oof, geez.
Yeah, that's a jump for you.
Yeah, it's a big jump. So I reckon that is one of the most fascinating Group 1s that I've seen in a long time. Does a group deserve to be a Group 1? What do you reckon?
Oh, it's difficult because it wasn't traditionally at this time. It was later on in the season. It's obviously a kickoff point for pretty much all these horses. So, yeah, there's a lot of Group 1 horses. Hello?
Siri has an opinion?
Siri, can you do one, please? I think a lot of horses, obviously, in that race are Group 1 winners and Group 1 quality. Does that therefore make it a Group 1 race? Yeah.
Yeah.
We got some worse ones on the program, mate.
Yeah, so I guess the what opinion I could kind of respect is, say, the likes of Think It Over, Zaki, Mwanga, Arapaho, Francesco Gardi, Osipenko, Lindemann, Major Beal, Jewis, Montefilia, Fangirl, Hinged. They're probably all looking for further. You know what I mean? So that's comfortably 75% of the field. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult to kind of see if it is going to be that Group 1 quality. But typically with this race, you can trust the form out of it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, last year, Animo, can't believe that was 12 months ago.
Yeah.
What a guy. And that's when he stamped his authority. That's when he's like, yeah, no, I'm the best horse in the country.
Won, 4 or 5 on the bounce?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Fangirl ran second in that, actually.
Yep.
Didn't Profondo run third?
Yeah, he did. Last time I backed him, I reckon.
Where are they now? Yeah, so you can definitely trust the form out of it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Have you been seeing many of the trials of late?
Yeah, been keeping an eye on just the big dogs coming back into the trials, but yeah, don't read too much into them at the moment. But that could change depending on who I'm backing in a race. Because if I think they trialled well, then I'll talk about that, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
But I felt like spring had probably sprung last week or the week before. I think the weekend was good entrance back into the spring carnival.
Yep.
There's a few decent horses going around.
I would have thought so.
Yeah. You mentioned Alentia.
Mate, she's very good.
Yeah.
Because
Very lightly raced.
Very lightly raced. She reminds me a lot of Magic Time, to be honest, who she actually beat during the autumn. And Magic Time, looking at her trials, she's trialled up fantastically. I think she is a really smart filly. So I can't wait to see what Alentia does, probably heading towards something like an Epsom.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. And we usually have a fairly good strike rate on in that
Of course
race.
we do. Speaking of top ranked, he has been retired to stud.
Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. I tried to put in all of our Group 1 winners in that opener, by the way. There was just too many. Some of the calls, I must say, were pretty underwhelming. So I left them out too.
Okay.
The underwhelming ones.
Not going to name names, though.
No, some of the big dogs.
How dare you speak such blasphemy between these four walls?
Well,
Darren Flindell and Matt Hill, they're not underwhelming either.
Hey, not every Chinese meal is succulent.
No, that is true. Look, Matty Hill's just gone from strength to strength, and I tell you what, he could be, by the time he gives it away, he could be considered one of our very best, I think, because he's only a young man.
Yeah,
he's under 40.
I reckon he'll be remembered by more people than Greg Hall was.
Yeah,
and that's saying something.
That is saying something.
Like, because Greg Hall, fantastic, but I think he was only in the hot seat for, 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Matt Hill could be in the hot seat for like 40 to 50.
Yeah, he really could. He really could.
And he's dipping his toe in the water of AFL too.
Yeah, he is. He was also over at Royal Ascot. Here's one for you. I've noticed people saying Royal Ascot, not Royal Ascot.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Dickheads, mate.
Yeah, like Richo, you're not a dickhead. We love you, Richo.
Yeah.
But don't be a dickhead, though.
Yeah.
Like, you're not a dickhead, but don't be a dickhead. Royal Ascot, we're not English.
No.
Oh, Ascot.
Oh, especially with the carry-on that the English did during the Ashes, mate.
Do not get me started.
Like Sandra Sully with the late news.
Yeah, we're late to the party, but I'll just say this. How dare they carry on like they're high and mighty when they don't have a squeaky clean record and act as if they're parading around as if when they went into that third test after the Johnny Bairstow stumping, they were parading around as if they weren't down 2-0.
Yeah.
Talking about, it's not about, wins and losses, it's about the legacy. It's like, no, mate, it's only about the wins and losses. That's all it's about.
Yeah. You know what the
unbelievable.
The difference between the two countries is them celebrating a draw and us being filthy that we drew.
100%. If we drew the Ashes here 2-2 on our home soil, the entire Cricket Australia would have a massive review. What's going on?
All CBDs would be blown up.
Yeah.
all cricket stadiums would cease to exist.
Do you know who CBD was blowing up at a time? New York City's.
Shit. That is true.
Mate, that was dour. But anyway.
Yeah.
Cricket. It sort of annoys me, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. And how convenient. Ben Stokes, middle of July, said there's no way I'm unretiring from one-day international cricket. 3 weeks later, he's unretired. He's made himself available for the World Cup. Could have seen that coming from a mile away.
What a superstar.
He's good.
But if you ask him, he'll tell you he is as well.
Yeah.
But, if they don't win the World Cup, mate, it's more about the legacy that they left and the style of cricket that they're trying to impart on the English people.
Yeah, which is losing.
Yeah. Losers lose, winners win.
Yeah.
Speaking of winners.
We'll
find a few.
Let's find some.
Find some for them.
Yeah. Winx Stakes, first Group 1 of the 2023-2024 season. 1,400 metres, weight for age. We touched on him. Think It Over is back, mate. And I've been extremely pleased with his trials as well.
He's come back and he's just doing his job. He's a good, genuine Group 1 weight for age horse.
Yeah.
He's no superstar. But he's a very good horse.
Yeah. Well, $6.7 million in the bank would be handy, wouldn't it?
I tell you what, Kerry, he's one of the best placed horses of all time.
Oh, since we've been following, the best.
Unbelievable.
He's been the beneficiary of the prize money increases in New South Wales. He's been the biggest beneficiary, may I restate.
Do you know what? I've got a lot of time for old So You Think geldings.
Of course you do.
like this guy.
I've a
Sosie Bon?
yeah, valet
Mate.
to his career.
Yeah, valet. Thank you, Sosie.
Yeah.
Like,
He's still with us, but his racing career is not.
mate, Knight's Order, he's not one of mine, but So You Think can just produce a really good quality old tough gelding.
Of course he can. Do you see who produced a winner today?
Yeah, Kamantari.
Unbelievable.
What sort of alternate reality are we living in?
His only son. The prodigal son.
My only son, my heir. I'm disappointed that he's not in the Godolphin colours.
Oh, so disappointing.
Surely
Surely
the Sheik.
just for a lull, you'd keep him. You don't have to make money on everything,
Yeah.
Sheik.
Exactly, Sheik. Listen, Your Royal Highness. Every Sheik needs a court jester, all right? and that was Kamantari. And he's now moved on, and the court jester position has become vacant. And this guy,
Yeah.
his name escapes me, Morby?
Yeah, something like
Something
that.
like that.
But
Morphy?
yeah,
The court jester, the bells are ringing on his head.
let me find
The
this out.
slippers with the toe curls at the end. He's just taking that position. And he's not even the Godolphin blue. Sacrilege.
Yeah, Manwy.
Manwy. What did I say? Morphy.
Yeah. So, Manwy is now he's an orphan.
He is effectively.
Is it effectively an orphan?
Well, imagine if I said to you, listen, Hutch, Papa Hutch has been castrated.
Oh no.
And he's been retired. You'd be livid.
I'd be in shock.
You'd be livid. And you'd say, you know what? I'm going to fill his shoes. His dad was a Group 1 winner. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. So think it over is in this race. Think about it I'm gonna make that mistake constantly this spring.
Oh, so will I.
Oh, just makes it really difficult. But do you think he can win?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, too far off.
Too far off.
High pressure.
Yeah. And for me, I want to wait until he gets to a mile at the very least, but he's a 2,000 metre horse for mine. So I think for him, Cox Plate path, you'd say? He's good enough to be in a Cox Plate.
Yeah.
If he runs well.
Yeah.
But not here.
He nicked a tendon, so it's gonna be tough for him.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. We have seen in recent, during the autumn, that those tendon horses aren't absolutely gone once they've done it. So right you are. He came into a winning machine, albeit in pretty subpar company.
Guess who his dad is? So you think? Right you are.
Goddamn.
Yeah. So he can just produce an old gelding, can't he?
He certainly can. Speed map here, Drifters. So Zaki probably finds the front with Hinged kicking up, although Hinged did miss the start a couple of times at the end of her prep, and her trials were absolutely abysmal. She was out the end.
She looks like a mare. You know as well as I do that some mares, once they get to that 4 or 5 age group, it's just like, I need to become a mum.
Yep.
May have been a great racehorse, but I think it's mother time for Hinged.
Yep, absolutely. This could actually be, without knowing anything, right?
No context.
No context. We know
No context.
We have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But this could be her last run because 12 months ago, I think she ran. 2 years ago, I think she ran second in the race. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how she goes. Actually, no, I'm thinking of her autumn run. She ran second, first up.
Yeah, she did.
So her first up record is really good. So I reckon that's what's kind of like keeping the connections interested.
But her thing was ping the gates and lead and put yourself in a position to win.
Which she hasn't done that in about half a dozen starts.
Chris Waller things, just don't ping out the gates very often.
Major Beal will probably be up there as well. Navajo Peak if it gets a run. Lindemann and Arapaho out wide, probably next best. But think it over, probably gets a really, really suck run there. Attrition, if it gets a run, probably not. Probably doesn't go here. And the one I'm hoping gets a run is King Colorado. But how did you see the race? Who are you interested in?
I'm interested in the Chris Waller thing. Let's just go through.
Sure.
Lindemann, Osipenko, now Montefilia. Going global is his fangirl. Francesco Guardi, Hinged. And Princess Grace his as well?
Yeah.
So the Chris Waller Stakes, we might as well call it. He's got a few winning chances. Were you taken and sucked in by Zaki's trial?
Not at all. I thought I've seen her trial better.
100%. And guess who peeled past him in the trial as well?
Shinzo.
That
was sensational. That's the horse you want to take out of it, right?
Yeah, it is. Zaki, for mine, he ran super well first up in the all-age stakes, remember? Ran a blinding second or third to Giga Kick. No one was beating Giga Kick in that race. And you sort of look at that for me like, well, does he just put these away? But since then, he's not won a Q22. He's won a Hollandale Stakes, and then he's absolutely failed in a Doomben Cup, and then subsequently spelled for this. Oh, he'll get out, he'll lead. JK on board, which is a massive tick. But you can't back him with confidence at the quote based on what you saw at the back end of last prep. He's a 8 or 9-year-old gelding now, and maybe he's a one fresh run and that's all he's got in him. And if that's the case, he could very well win this. But I think it's more of a risk to take him than to not. So I'm happy to risk Zaki. So he's just about the favourite in the market. You mentioned King Colorado. He's definitely the most interesting horse in the race for mine.
Mate, if you were listening in the about 10 tips I gave out in the JJ, this bloke was one of them. And, it's not every day that you get an $81 tip with the good people at Ned's.
No.
It's not every day that happens. But he started about $13 on the day, which is not great for my Group 1 strategy for last year, because I would have been in the green if that true quote had come to fruition. But what I love and what I said about this guy is his action. It is sensational. I reckon it's actually one of the best actions I've seen since Winx. He just is so economical. He's like a cog in a clock. Pins the ears back every single time he runs. If he runs here, he's my clear on top selection. He's the one I cannot wait to see this spring. I think he's got tremendous upside.
Yeah, he's got massive upside. It's funny when post the JJ when he won that, our friend Daniel O'Sullivan, the ratings guru, expert, top operator, rated King Colorado the same as the Autumn Sun rated in the JJ, and then obviously we know what the Autumn Sun did in his 3-year-old season. King Colorado definitely gives me that sort of vibe. He definitely gives me the 1,400 to 2,000 metre type horse. I think maybe a mile at this stage is what I'm thinking for him. So it's interesting that the Mara Eustace stable have taken him here because they clearly have a really high opinion of this horse. This is what his like fourth or fifth start. Fourth start, and they don't need to take him here.
No,
wait for the 3-year-old things.
Yeah,
put him in a Group 2 3-year-old race, preparing for the Caulfield Guineas, something like that.
Still colt, 50.5 kilos on his back. Just needs to get a run.
Which I think he will. And yeah, I'm really keen on King Colorado as well. He's not my on top selection at this stage, depending on what the track does. If it's a dry track, which I'm hoping it's
I think
I
think it should be. Had a look at the forecast. There is some sunshine. I was thinking it'd be about soft 6, soft 5.
I'm hoping it's no worse than a soft 5 because if it's soft 5 or better, Fangirl's my on top selection. If you look at this girl's record, how many times did she run second to Animo? If you take Animo out of the Winx Stakes last year, Fangirl wins that race. Take I Wish I Win out of the Golden Eagle. My apologies, Hutch. Fangirl wins that race. And then she, towards the back end of her prep, she just kept coming up on heavy dicks. So she was in Doncaster Mile. She ran 7th out of 20 with 53.5 kilos on her back on an absolute bog deck.
Which she doesn't get through.
Which she does not get through at all. So for mine, despite her abysmal racing pattern, I think Fangirl is probably, as it stands right now, at that 1,600 metres, probably the best horse in this race, I think. And go back to the point that I made at the start of the podcast as well about those 4-year-old mares entering into that 5-year-old season. I think it'll do her a power of good.
She's never a hot trialer either.
No.
But I think she's actually shown more in these trials than she has previously as well.
100%. So I think just that extra year of maturity for Fangirl is going to do her a world of good. And what's telling as well is the J-Mac booking. Guess who was on her last prep, mate?
Oh, Huey?
Karen.
Oh, was he?
Karen.
Joe Moreira, Kieran. Yeah, right.
So, geez, that's a jockey upgrade, with no disrespect to Karen whatsoever. So I think it's telling that J-Mac wants to stick with Fangirl in those wait for age races. So Fangirl's the one on top for me. I think she'll probably be out near last, but the rail's in the true position. I think there's enough pressure up front. I don't think they're going to go at a blistering speed, but she comes home like a freight train anyway. And yeah, for that reason, Fangirl's my on top. She's $4.40 with people at Ned's. I reckon that's about fair.
Yeah. That's a great pick-up by you because J-Mac's ridden her twice for 2 wins. And with her pattern, like her strike rate, all things considering, is very good.
Yeah. Considering
the company she goes up against as well. And if you take all of her heavy runs out, she's she hasn't run top 3 for 5 attempts on a heavy either.
Yeah.
So it's like you can basically pretty much bump up her winning strike rate up to like 50%. The thing is though, she hasn't won in 72 weeks.
No, she hasn't won in such a long time.
That's the hard facts of it, right? Take Animo out, she's probably won 4 Group 1s by this stage.
She has, but at the same time, how many horses with her pattern come home for a really nice second or third, and that's all they ever do?
Yeah.
So that's my concern with Fangirl, but I think I've seen enough in her trials. The J-Mac booking, I'm hoping for a dry deck. She'll be my top selection, but yeah, my clear second selection is King Colorado. I think the price for him, $16 with Neds, is ridiculous. I don't think they're respecting the JJ Atkins win enough, and the fact that there's considerable upside for him. Where are we?
I agree. I couldn't agree more. So, do you have a strategy?
Yes. So at this stage, I'm going to chuck $80 on Fangirl to win, and I'm going to chuck a little $20 on King Colorado to win. So
yep. Big, very keen on King Colorado. If he gets a run, I think he starts closer to $10. With that in mind, I'm probably just having 50 each way on him. If he doesn't get a start, I'm probably defaulting to Fangirl because I want to see these 3-year-olds that are now 4, the likes of Communist, Golden Mile, Osipenko, and Lindemann. Lindemann, I think, has been trialling the best of those, and he's the one that gives me the most interest. But I think he is better past a mile as well. And he has drawn barrier 18, which doesn't help.
Drawn the car park, and for his pattern, he's just going to try and get across and probably do too much work.
Yeah.
Mwanga going around again as a 6-year-old stallion. Wouldn't surprise.
I have never seen him trial like that.
Mm.
He is as forward as I've seen him, but he is the most inconsistent horse in Australia.
He is. They're just praying for one more Group 1 for him, praying. I wouldn't be surprised if he's here a lot fresher than normal because they're thinking, hey, if we get him here super fresh, all of these horses, for the most part, are going to be not at their peak because they've got bigger fish to fry. Maybe we can just nab this and then piss off.
Yes. His last win, this race 2 years ago.
Shit. I remember that day as well on the quaddie. Chee-hoo. Yeah, so there you go.
All right, let's do it. So, other races on the card there, Jonesy. Let's go to race 5 at Randwick, the Show County Quality Group 3, 1,200 metres for 3-year-olds and up. I have been really, obviously, there's not too much. There's so many horses first up here, and we're not usually trial guys, but we have to be to have an opinion here. I think the best trialer that I've seen so far has been Extremely Lucky. Now, he was scratched last week from the Alentia race, I believe because he had a bit of mucus in the throat. So he had the doctor's certificate, not ready to go. Now, if you're rocking up to work and you're a little bit under the weather, you have to perform, right?
Yeah,
you still have to do your job.
100%.
So I just want him to go there and do his job, and then I'll be richer for it.
100%. They were talking about the Everest for this guy.
Yeah,
this time last year.
Like the stable change is as fascinating as anything.
Yeah,
as
it
well.
is. So Gotcha's been scratched from this race, but she's going to show up later on in the program. Mate, this is a fascinating race for me. It's not a betting race for me personally because, you know, we're relying on trials for the most part. And there's some horses here with a ton of ability. But Buenos Noches, one of the best named horses in Australia. Colino, and to your point, Extremely Lucky. Argentia can win this race as well, but she doesn't win out of turn. So not a betting race for me. I'm really interested to see how Extremely Lucky goes, though.
Yeah, agreed. Race 6 on the program is the Premier's Cup, 2,000 metres for Group 3. I thought Faulkner Park is the winter middle distance star in Sydney, and he's just been so consistent. He's on the minimum here. Just missed Bold Mac that day at Rose Hill,
Came back like 600 metres as well, though. I think he went 2,400 back to 18.
5 weeks between runs, so he wasn't fully wound up there. And 8 of the 10 winners on the day were in the first 4 heading into the straight. So you did need to be on speed. He was way back in the field. Up to the 2,000 metres here, freshen up. I think he'll be winning this.
Yeah, I think he wins as well. Really interested to see how Cleveland goes. Cleveland's now officially an Australian horse because who was he with? I think he was with maybe
O'Brien's, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was with the O'Briens, but with Chris Lee's now. He was my Sydney Cup horse, I think.
Yeah.
That's funny, isn't it?
But he ran a really good 16th.
He ran really well. So, yeah, Cleveland's one to watch. I think this is short of his best, though.
Mm-hmm. And then race 7 on the program is the Toy Show Quality. Now, I looked at this field, right? And I was like, geez, what does this remind me of? In like human standards? I reckon it's like a mum taking her kids to a kindergarten or something. Mummy Zoo is $3.60. She's the favourite at the moment. I think this is her race to lose, especially if there's a little bit of cut out of the ground.
Yeah, I think so. She's a potential Everest horse for the Wallace Stables who gotcha. So this is almost like a mini trial for her. So I expect her to win this race. The horse that I'm wary of is number 7 Parasol because 1,100 metres is right up her alley. And she was great for us last prep, wasn't she?
She was not as good as Magic Time, who she lost to. But the start prior at the 1,200 metres, that nearly found her out.
Yeah, she can't do 1,200 metres, mate.
No, and I think the 1,000, the 1,100 for her is pretty much perfect.
Cherry ripe.
But Barrier 10, I think, is a little bit sticky for her. Where does she get?
Yeah, true. No, Zugotcha should win this as a trial for the Everest. So, yeah, hopefully she does for the for Sneezy Racing.
Good luck, Craig and others. Race 9 is the Silver Shadow Stakes, 1,200 metres Group 2 for the fillies, set weights penalties. Now, you have some very smart fillies returning here, including Christilli, who won during the championships for Lizzie Jelfs as well, who's in the ownership there. So, do you reckon she just kicks off her campaign here?
I think so. They have an incredibly high opinion of this horse, Christilli. Oh, yeah, she was like $20 when I got her that day. It was so juicy. So juicy. J-Mac on. Yeah, Christilli's the one for me. Platinum Jubilee, fair enough. Good horse. Resuming here. Lazargo is interesting as well. So Lazargo, if you recall, Drifters, in the Golden Slipper, failed to finish because of the interference from Learning to Fly and the likes of, and then she just did not like the heavy deck in that race against Christilli. So I think $21 is a really big price for her. So interested to see how she goes. I think she's dual accepted as well.
Yeah, she is in Melbourne.
Yep. So see where they go with her. I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up in Melbourne, but yeah, Christilli's one for me.
Yep. Komochi for Gary Portelli has beaten Christilli in a race before, and she wasn't that far away that day that Christilli won, beaten 2 lengths. I think the heavy ground probably found her out. She does have that Japanese breeding by Brave Smash. Her trials have been really good. Her trials have been fantastic. So she has that form around Tis Invincible, which, obviously Christilli does as well. Tis Invincible won that race last week. That form has been franked. I think they're the two. The issue is Komochi has been dual accepted in Melbourne as well. So if those two split, makes my life a lot easier.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's the case, but who bloody knows?
Not me.
Mate, if we head to Caulfield, I think we want to go to race 6 on the program. So the Rigorola Stakes, a listed race over the 1,200 metres. I found this extremely difficult.
Yeah, this is such a tough race.
Bandersnatch probably leads from Savannah Cloud and Boogie Dancer.
Yes. I'm probably leaning towards Detonator Jack.
I thought that way too.
Yeah, first up. He was fantastic last prep. This is too sharp for him, I think, but I just want to see how he goes. He's probably heading towards a handicap mile race, I'd say. Maybe an Epsom.
Probably something, whatever the one at Caulfield is.
Rupert Clark. Is that in the springtime?
You can tell we're first up here, Drifters.
But anyway, so yeah, Detonator Jack, but probably not going to have any of my money on It's Our Time. Just, I swear to God, he's such a difficult horse because you jump off him and he wins, and then every time you jump on him, he'll run a nice second or third. But yeah, I'm happy to watch him go around. He's been up for a long time, so not a big betting race for me, but I'll have something small on Detonator Jack.
Yeah, I agree. Not really a betting race for me either. What's race 7 on the program there, Jonesy?
Race 7 is the Quizette Stakes.
Sorry, just loading. The Quizette Stakes, so this one is, bear with me, 1,100 metres, Group 3 for the fillies, set weights penalties. So we have some of these dual acceptors that we'll talk about, including Lazargo, Komochi as well. The interesting runner for me is Skirt the Law. So I think she was, a $2 favourite in one of the races heading into the Slipper, and where she failed. Yeah,
so she won the Magic Millions 2-year-old classic. I was on her that day, $7, I think, roughly. So yeah, it was all over her like a rash when she came down to Sydney for the Sweet Embrace off a 5-week freshen up, and she just failed. Completely failed, and she was subsequently spelled. Really liked her trial up here in the Sunshine State, and she's gone straight back down to Victoria to contest the stakes races. So Skirt the Law is the one for me. Yeah, I think she's just a really fast filly. I really like Skirt the Law. Lazargo, to my point before, $34 with the good people at Ned's. I think her form prior to those last 2 races warrants her being a shorter price than that. But no, I won't be going past. Let's go to the law.
You know who I thought might be the forgotten filly here is number 8. She's All Shenanigans. Now, she obviously wasn't versing the top grade of those 2-year-olds, but what she was doing was putting up some pretty impressive margins. Like she was winning by 3.5, 4.5 lengths at Sandown and Bendigo. I think she could be the one that if she's to go on with it as a 3-year-old, she could potentially be the one. Simon Zara, Blake McDougall in the saddle, barrier 7, soft draw, won't be too far away. I'm happy to spec her at the $11. Why not?
Why not?
But if Kamachi's here, I'm all over her. Race 8 on the program at Caulfield is the Vane Stakes, 1,100 metres Group 3 for the Colts and Geldings, set weights penalties. You have Little Bros, and Cylinder. VC as well, only 7 runners. I think it's between the top 2.
Yeah, same here. Haven't had a chance to see Little Bro trial at all. I'm not sure how he went. Did you see anything?
I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. But anyway, Cylinder looks enormous. Like this fella has gone from a little baby boy to a man. So the $1.70 quote is pretty short. Little Bros has beaten him before. And I think Little Bros in the slipper was a complete forgive. So if you look at that, he's had 4 starts for 2 wins and 2 seconds, one of which being the Blue Diamond. Plus, he's just a little baby boy grey horse, isn't he? Little Bros. So I'm leaning towards him purely because of the price, but I wouldn't be surprised if Cylinder's just come back like a big hulking pony and is going to be headed for the Coolmore stud. Maybe an Everest even. So Cylinder wouldn't surprise me here. I remember Bivouac won this race for Godolphin a few years ago when he just like literally put on the Vin Diesel Nos Dominic Toretto in the last 100 metres and just blew them away.
Yeah. As only Bivouac could at the time.
When he was on, when he wasn't thinking about banging, he was a very fast horse.
Yeah.
Very fast.
Be a good rugby league player.
Yeah. He really would. Bit of a whack.
I agree. I think Cylinder's the horse to beat. His trials have been enormous. I just had a look at the jump outs for Little Bros. Wasn't really asked. If you like him, you saw enough. That's basically the summary. But Cylinder has been impressive. He wasn't that far away in the Golden Slipper. Then 1,400 metres and the end of prep probably found him out.
Agreed.
So freshen up. First up here, 1,200 metres. Caulfield. Not every horse gets around Caulfield. So that's obviously something that you have to keep in mind. But I think the $1.70 quote is probably fair enough. So race 9, the PB Lawrence, now Mr. Brightside, who featured in the opener. Well, very well found by you in the All-Star Mile. $2.05 with the good people at Ned's. Won the race last year. Does he go back-to-back?
Yeah, I think so. If he was in the Winx Stakes, he'd be on toppy.
Yeah, right.
I think he's probably at the end of that prep, winning the All-Star Mile and then the Doncaster Mile as the toppy. He's cemented himself as like that 1,600 metre like star in the country. This is a bit short of 1,600 metres, obviously. But I still think against these, yeah, he's the one for me.
Is he a top 5 horse in Australia?
Yeah, I think so. Because if you look at him, he's only pretty much been in Group 1 company, for his last however many runs. And the last horse to beat him over 1,400 metres was Alligator Blood. He won that All-Star Mile, a genuinely run All-Star Mile, and the form out of that was unbelievable. And then he's gone to the Donny a few weeks later on a heavy 9 as the top weight and won that. So yeah, I think he'll be better this prep as well, like because he just keeps improving every prep. So I think he'll put these away. I think he'll win a Group 1 over the mile at some point this prep, and he'll run the Cox Plate. But I don't think 2,000 metres is go.
It's an interesting question because you have, say, Giga Kick, I Wish I Win. They're clearly in like that frame, right? And then Nature Strips, like, is he anymore?
I don't think so.
Yeah. And then it's probably up for debate, right?
For the rest of the top
Without
five.
a fight for me, 100%. I think he's kind of like cemented his top 5 spot now because not many horses win like that against a pattern. Whenever you see a horse win against a pattern like that, I think he's right up there. And then Mr. Brightside probably does sneak in because Alligator Blood had his colours lowered a little bit. It's probably fair to say.
Yeah, I think Alligator Blood and Mr. Brightside are sort of about the same. And I think of Alligator Blood super highly. Yeah. No, that's a good question though. It's a good point you make. I think we'll have a much clearer understanding in a few weeks' time once these 3-year-olds start coming through. Like
is Shinzo.
Like Shinzo.
There?
If King Colorado wins this thing on the weekend, you're like, this thing could be anything. I think a horse like Militarize could win the middle distance stuff for a 3-year-old, like the Guineas and stuff. He could run the Cox Plate, and I think he'd be a live chance there if he wins the Guineas and stuff like that. So, yeah, but as it stands right now, In Secret, she's a very good horse.
Can't all be sprinters though.
No, they can't be.
Yeah,
they can't be.
Attrition. I'm extremely keen to see this horse back.
Yes, so am I.
Benny Mellon for the Freedmans, so extremely unlucky not to win the Australian Guineas. Just got beaten by Legato, an absolute freak. I'm super keen to follow him this prep. I think he's a really, really smart horse. So I think if he can win with this sort of weight, obviously now that he's a 4-year-old, as a young 4-year-old, against the likes of Mr. Brightside, watch out. This thing could be anything.
Well, we need another one to add to our ranks, mate. So, I'm with you there. There's a couple other horses that are racing that I haven't seen in the races that we've just gone through, but they're not in stakes sort of stuff.
Yep.
But just a quick mention. So, Amenable is a big one for me this weekend. Race 5 at Caulfield. $3.70 with the good people at Ned's. See how it goes. And also in the last in Caulfield, Berkeley Square. I thought he was terrific resuming last start. Came home for a nice 4th over 1,400 metres, which is in his jam. Goes out to 1,600 metres now. And if he's gearing towards the Cox Plate, you'd think he'd be there or thereabouts in this race, even though he's drawn gate 18 of 18.
Yeah, agreed. And for me, I think one of my better bets for the Pro on the weekend is in the last in Sydney, number 6, Vivia. This horse has been ultra impressive last 2 starts. Getting $6.50 here.
Sheesh.
Now, Time to Boogie did fail last start. Keen to take it on.
Yeah, fair.
Vivia for me. Godolphin in the last. Always a tried and true.
Thanks, James.
Drifters, that's all she wrote for first episode back.
Keen as.
Cobwebs out.
Yeah, look, there was some elements. There were some patches that are a little bit rusty. But we'll get into our flow. It's just good to be back. It's good that the Spring Carnival's just around the corner.
Yes, agreed. If you enjoy the podcast, the best way that you can support it for us is, 1, to tell your mates.
Yeah, tell your fucking mates.
Please.
Yeah.
2, subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, on Apple. Give us a 5-star rating and leave a comment as well. So that helps us get up those charts, gets in people's feeds. That's super appreciated. So thank you so much for listening and for, frankly, fucking with us for the last 6 seasons. Season 7 is going to be good. We're going to, for the Group 1 strategies, we'll try and do some didn't get it in time for this week. It is a bit hard because we record on Wednesday. But if you do have your shit together, because we had, all right, here's the Group 1 strategies, right, that people sent in. $20 hinged each way on Hinged, $60 on the nose on Zaki. Same race multi with Ned's. Fangirl, Zaki, top 3, Jewess, top 4. $50 on Lindemann, $50 on Zaki. Fangirl won't be beaten. And that's all she wrote for the Group 1 strategy. So where if you fancy yourself as a bit of a punter, have a go at the Group 1 strategy. Send in your suggestions.
Put yourself out there.
Because we'll be posting it every Saturday morning.
Put yourself out there. That's one of the things that you need to do if you got a horse racing podcast. You need to put yourself out there and live with the results. So if you can do that, if you can be resilient enough, then yeah, just submit. Why not?
Absolutely. We'll be back on Sunday. Review podcast incoming, which will be good. But yeah, that's all we have.
Yeah, there we go. Good to be back.
Cheerio.
See yous.